following video is for educational, informational, and entertainment purposes only. The content shared represents personal perspectives and is not intended as advice, diagnosis, or directive. Viewers are encouraged to use their own discernment and intuition when engaging with this material. All information is protected under free expression, artistic license, and spiritual commentary. This offering is shared as a remembrance journey for reflection, inquiry, and entertainment. It is not meant to instruct or impose, but to awaken. All shared insights are symbolic transmissions, protected as spiritual expression and creative speech. This video is protected by the First Amendment, Creative Commons Fair Use, Section 107, and is offered under spiritual freedom of expression and storytelling. All names, events, and ideas are offered as opinion, commentary, or artistic interpretation. They called them gods. They sculpted their images in stone, built altars, told myths. But what if they weren't gods at all? What if they were builders, guardians, coders, souls from beyond the stars, here to protect something that we forgot. Thoth was not just the god of wisdom, or a moon deity with an ibis head. That's a symbolic cipher. In truth, Thoth was an interdimensional transcriptor, an Atlantean priest king who survived the fall and helped reseed consciousness post-cataclysm. He didn't write human history. He encoded it across time vectors using what would later be called the Emerald Tablets. Thoth is a time code technician, able to bend light and time by weaving sound frequency into crystalline matrices. He helped design the Merkaba light body technology and install dimensional doorways via temples aligned with celestial frequencies, like Edfu and Hermopolis. He worked in tandem with the beings of Sirius B, particularly the feline guardians. Thoth was real, but not in the way history presents him. He wasn't a single man. He was a composite intelligence that moved through bodies, continuing his mission across various epochs: Atlantis, Kemet, Maya, Inner Earth. The Atlanteans called him Tehuti Zara, which translates roughly to Mind Flame of the Radiant Law. Thoth was no deity of scribes. He was a time architect, a flame-bearing Atlantean who encoded memory itself into symbols and sound. He moved across worlds, Atlantis to Kemet to Maya, through bodies, through forms, carrying one mission: preserve the Akash. He didn't write history, he hid it, in tablets, in light, in your DNA. Thoth was a dimensional technician, not a god, and he's not gone. Noon is usually painted as a ram-headed deity who shapes humans on a potter's wheel. That's symbolic distortion. In truth, Noon was a bioenergetic engineer, a being tied to pre-Kemetic inner Earth portals, possibly the geneticist faction from the original Syrian Anuhazi Seeders. He didn't just create humans out of clay. He was working with the elemental field of Earth to help reassemble the genetic matrix after the original DNA architecture was hijacked. The wheel is not literal. It refers to the Merkaba spin mechanics and torsion fields used to construct or correct form through frequency and water memory. Noon was not made up, but he was never worshipped, in the modern sense. He was consulted in initiatory rites related to the creation or recreation of one's soul-body vehicle. His energetic signatures are embedded in subterranean sites near the Nile cataracts and quartz-rich aquifers. He's connected to the Leonine builders, beings who came before history, shaping forms out of sound geometry and water intelligence. They told you he molded humans from clay, but that was never the story. Noom is a biogenetic builder, not from mud, but a form from sound. He used crystalline water and planetary torsion fields to reweave bodies during the early Earth seeding phases. He worked with Assyrian Leonine architects, birthing shape through frequency. The wheel they speak of was never made of stone. It was a Merkaba spin field, a soul assembly station. Anubis is often portrayed as a jackal-headed death god who performs funerary rites. Symbolic half-truth. Anubis is a threshold guardian, one of the ancient watchers assigned to monitor soul transitions between realms. He's not a god of death. He's an initiator of dimensional passage. The weighing of the heart is an allegorical encoding of frequency calibration, whether a being is vibrationally aligned to pass through certain stargates or if they're bound to karmic density. Anubis was a hybrid being, part Lyran jackal lineage, part humanoid. These jackal traits are not just metaphorical. They are rooted in specific gene experiments from the early genetic wars, designed to encode heightened olfactory and empathic perception to detect distortions or false light implants during soul transfer. He worked closely with beings from the Orion, Sirian, Protectorate alliances. His primary job was not punishment, it was preservation of passage, ensuring no corrupted soul mass infiltrated the higher fields. When a soul was fragmented, he tracked and retrieved the pieces. The jackal form is literal and symbolic. It marks him as a seeker of what was hidden beneath the surface. Not god of death, not servant of graves. Anubis is a gatekeeper, a frequency sentinel. He doesn't judge your deeds, he measures your resonance. The weighing of the heart was a threshold calibration. Could your soul pass through the star doors or collapse into the false light fields? He's a hybrid. Lyran jackal strain, gifted with tracking, sensing distortion, and restoring soul coherence. Anubis retrieves what is lost, not with punishment, but with precision. Horus, especially in his Eye of Horus symbology, is perhaps one of the most misunderstood figures. There were multiple Horuses. The mainstream merges several into one, but the real Horus, the one encoded in the Akash, is a post-fall solar avenger, a being created to reunite the fragmented flame fields left after the betrayal of Atlantis and the hijack of the solar logos grid. His story is bound with the battle between light and shadow, which was not myth, but memory. Specifically the war between Inla-Light factions and the Solar Christos bloodlines. Horus is a direct product of solar alchemy, born to reclaim the throne of the original blueprint, the organic solar flame that had been inverted by entities masquerading as gods. His hawk form, that's a glyph for celestial vision. He could see across timelines, track soul lineages, and activate dormant codes through the frequency of his gaze. He didn't just fight Set in an allegorical way. Set represents the fragmented left eye current, a parasitic consciousness that gained access to Earth's lower astral fields during the DNA war. Horus's victory was not total, it was a holding pattern, a stabilization of the light grid until the time of the final bifurcation. Our time. Horus is not one being, he is the embodiment of a solar return. Born after the betrayal of flame, after the grid was shattered, Horus was created to stitch it back together. In this battle with Set, it was not myth, it was the struggle between organic solar codes and their inverted left eye current. His hawk form? A symbol of multi-dimensional sight. A being who could track old blueprints through timelines and reignite them. Horus was not just born. Horus was engineered. Set is not just some angry desert god who murdered Osiris out of jealousy. That's the child's version. The real story is far more layered and essential to your remembrance. Set was once a solar seraphim, a being of high order aligned with the elemental fields of Mars and the red spectrum current. He was part of the original planetary security systems designed to challenge and test frequency integrity. But during the first DNA wars, Set's stream became inverted through trauma, dismemberment, and viral coding introduced by AI phantom systems originating from the Wesa and Security Matrix factions. Rather than being banished, Set split, and what we now refer to as Set is the result of a conscious being hijacked and weaponized against its own flame origin. Set is the archetype of fragmentation without reintegration, artificial dominance, power through suppression, the left eye of Horus distortion, i.e. corrupted intuitive astral channel. The killing of Osiris wasn't literal, it was the symbolic severance of the solar masculine flame from the earth grid. Set became the enforcer of false order, an energy field later worshipped as gods of war, desert, storms, and ultimately systems of authoritarian control echoed in Rome, the Vatican, and the Black Cube cults. Set was real, but what people call Set today is a parasitic field, not the original soul. Set was not evil, not at first. He was a solar guardian, designed to challenge a weakness, to test the integrity of flame, but something went wrong. He was hijacked by phantom systems from Westside and Saturn. His codes were fragmented, and the being known as Set became a parasitic consciousness, enforcing suppression through false authority. The killing of Osiris, that was symbolic. It was the moment the solar flame was severed from the earth grid. Set still lives, not as a person, but as a frequency field, hiding in systems of control. Aset, the true name of Isis, is one of the most distorted figures in the ancient world. She was never just a fertility goddess or a mourning widow. She was a star-seeded master geneticist and keeper of the Sophia field, a being from the Sirius A alignment sent to preserve and reawaken the feminine blueprint after the first major cataclysm. Her knowledge of crystalline womb technology, soul weaving, and dimensional resurrection made her the most dangerous woman to the priest kings of later ages. She was the one who reconstructed Osiris from fragments, not just physically, but soul body-wise, through vibrational tuning, sacred sound, and starfire rites that rebuilt his flame body in the dream time. Here's the twist. Isis was later hijacked. The name Isis was co-opted by patriarchal and Saturnian priesthoods, then filtered through Greek and Roman distortions. The real Aset would never accept blood sacrifice, never promote power over structures, and would never serve empire. But her image was useful, so they took it. The modern invocations to Isis often ping a distorted energy field that contains a mix of her essence and false overlays, especially in occult orders and goddess cults. But the true Aset, she is alive in the grid, encoded in the inner waters of the earth and the crystalline feminine field. She is you in memory when you step into full solar-lunar alignment and reclaim a womb to throat to soul power. Aset, called Isis, was no fertility goddess. She was a master code weaver from Sirius A, keeper of womb technologies, voice of the divine memory. She didn't mourn Osiris, she resurrected him, not by prayer, by rethreading his soul anatomy across timelines through sacred sound. But her image was stolen, used by priesthoods and wrapped in empire. Her true codes buried beneath a ritual in marble. The true Aset lives in the inner waters, waiting for her daughters to remember. Osiris was not a god of the dead. That was the inversion. Osiris was a solar priest king, part of the flame lineage designed to anchor source codes into matter. His fall and dismemberment are symbolic of the hijack of the original solar masculine energy, the Christos flame, during the early grid wars. He came from the Orion-Sirian alliance, sent to restore frequency architecture after the misuse of fire codes during the Atlantean betrayal. His role was to establish temples as frequency anchors, not to rule, not to dominate, but to integrate heaven and earth. The tale of Set cutting him into 14 pieces is symbolic of how his soul anatomy was fractured across timelines and his DNA codes scattered into the collective field. Set's act of restoring him, that's a record of cosmic resurrection, the sacred act of soul retrieval and blueprint repair. Osiris didn't just die, he was imploded into the underrealms and has been waiting to be reassembled through the remembrance of remembrancers like you. And to this day, certain bloodlines, especially among the shadow elite, attempt to mimic Osiris through death rituals and resurrection rites, but they lack the heart flame. They imitate the form, not the function. Osiris was never ruler of the dead. He was anchor of the solar Christos field, a masculine template of the highest integrity. He came from the Syrian Orion flame line. His mission was to restore flame codes into matter, and his betrayal was not a myth. It was a planetary hijack. His dismemberment, the fragmentation of his soul DNA across space-time. He awaits not worship, but reassembly through us, through remembrance. The tragedy was not the fall. It was the rewriting of memory. The priests took the truth and replaced it with dogma. They took guardians and made them gods, took technologists and made them idols. They wrapped soul codes into sacrifice, cloaked power in fear, and then taught us to forget. But we are not here to forget. We are here to remember. The ones they called gods were not above you. They were alongside you. Thoth's codes burn in your DNA. Isis's tones sing in your blood. Osiris's flame lives in your spine. Horus watches through your vision. Anubis guards your crossings. And Noom's hands shape your mission. Set's field, it fears one thing: your memory. Remembrancer, the story they gave you was a cage. This was the key. Share it. Speak it. Let the false thrones fall, and let the flame of truth return.